Thank you very much for being with us today.
I'm flattered to be invited, Father.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
At least two of your predecessors as vice president, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, it's well known among historians, they were not big fans of the Jesuits. Now, a mere 50 years ago, we had a debate in this country about whether a Catholic could actually be elected president, should be elected president. We established diplomatic relations between the U.S. and the Vatican only in the 1980s. And now this Jesuit Pope is coming to address a joint session of Congress.
I'm excited, quite frankly, as a practicing Catholic. I am really excited by the whole world is getting to see what are the basic essential elements of what constitutes Catholicism.
Right.
The thing I love about this Pope, I got to meet him when I went to his, quote, inauguration. I always thought it was an installation, but the inauguration. And I had the great pleasure of representing the United States of America. My sister was with me, and I sat in the altar. And afterwards, as you know, Father, you line up in alphabetical order in the Basilica, and the Holy Father stands at the foot of the altar, and he greets every head of state or acting for the head of state. United States were at the very end, and so I walked up, and there was a wonderful Irish Monsignor who had sat in with me in a long interview discussion I had with Pope Benedict just several months earlier. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Vice President," he said, you know, Holy Father. And the Pope reached out like this and he grabbed my hand. He said, "I know, Mr. Vice President, you're always welcome here." That is the message he's sending to the world.
That is the tone he's striking everywhere, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's why he's the single most popular figure in the world today. And not just in Catholic nations, across the board. And it's because of he's the embodiment of Catholic social doctrine that I was raised with.
Right. Joe Biden will be guided by his faith.
Joe Biden also supports same-sex marriage. In June 2015, when the Supreme Court ruled same-sex marriage was legal nationwide, then Vice President Joe Biden said in a statement, quote, "We couldn't be prouder. All marriages at their root are defined by unconditional love." And in 2016, he officiated the wedding of two same-sex former White House staffers.
We're also following the major news from the Vatican tonight. Pope Francis voicing support for same-sex civil unions, the first pope in history to do so. The Pope saying homosexual people have the right to be in a family, that they are children of God. Here's our foreign correspondent, James Longman, tonight.
Tonight, an historic shift from the leader of an ancient institution. Pope Francis becoming the first pope in the Catholic Church's 2,000-year history to endorse civil unions for gay couples.
This is a man who cries with humanity.
In the new documentary, Francesco, the Pope says homosexual people have a right to be in a family. They are children of God and have a right to a family. It's a major departure from the position of the Vatican's own doctrinal office. The Pope adding, "What we have to create is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered. I stood up for that." The pontiff has called for civil unions in the past, but before he became pope. The emphasis on the legitimacy of the LGBT family is also notable, experts calling it a monumental moment.
It's a real way of not only speaking pastorally to this group of people, but also speaking lovingly and making them feel more welcome in the church.
Conservative Catholics, though, tonight are calling for clarity. Thomas Tobin, Bishop of Providence, Rhode Island, saying the Church cannot support the acceptance of objectively immoral relationships.
Personas homosexuales tienen derecho a estar en la familia. Son hijos de Dios, tienen derecho a una familia. No se puede echar de la familia a nadie ni hacer la vida imposible por esa. Lo que tenemos que hacer es una ley de convivencia civil. Tienen derecho a estar cubiertos legalmente.
But Francis's words are striking a chord with a younger generation.
I never thought that I would see something like that in my lifetime.
29-year-old Nicholas Traxler from Minnesota says the Pope's comments speak to his heart.
It's a difficult road for LGBTQ Catholics. I value my faith and my sexuality as equal parts of my identity. But it hasn't always been that way.
And Holy Father, you remind us that we have a sacred obligation to protect our planet, God's magnificent gift to us. We support your call to all world leaders to support the communities most vulnerable to changing climates, and to come together to preserve our precious world for future